Startup ecosystem, what the idea is that you have to learn how to pitch your idea clearly and concisely. And once you learn how to do that, then you can bring in all the stakeholders and you can get into programs that'll help you and train you on how to build it. But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got Startup on the Blocks. So I need you to start coming to Startup on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of like that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America, we do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally. And we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, again, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about and language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and then I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow. Send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Start Up on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard. And Lloyd is here, he's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Start Up on the Blocks.
Hey, how are you?
Really good, really good. How are you?
Yeah, fantastic. Glad to have you here this week and month is rolling on by here.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to be here. That intro video was something. It's great because you and I have just recently started speaking
Yeah,
and just getting an insight on kind of what you've done and some of the founders that you've helped already and kind of their testimony. That was really cool to see, as we're waiting in the background, that was cool.
yeah, it's definitely a neat video, and yeah, we definitely need to take some time and interview some more founders like that, and get them, uh, some more press like that as well. Yes. So yeah, excited about today, man, and the audience are gonna love your story, and so we're looking forward to diving deep on that. I guess first, I'll pull up your little thing page here. Let me see if I can find it. And I thought I already had it shared, but I don't see it. Let's try it again.
Yeah, you pull up the site.
Well, no, I was just going to pull up the deal there, and I guess it was
Oh,
already up. I just had my view a little incorrect there. Yes. So why don't you just give them like a 1 or 2 minute introduction, so people kind of get a feel for who you are.
absolutely. So, first of all, thank you for having me. My name is Jermaine Anugwom. I'm the founder of Talon OS, which is a teleoperation system. But more so, I'm a multi-founder, right? And so,
Yes.
so this, Talon is just one of the other projects that we're currently launching. But I've been an entrepreneur, I want to say since, gosh, 2006, I want to say.
Okay.
And from Houston, Texas, born and raised in Houston, Texas.
Okay.
And I'm super excited to I don't really like talking about myself a lot. I know some founders like to say that, but today is going to be different, right? So I'm what I'm here for is I'm excited to kind of just share my story a little bit. Found out more about your community, Lloyd, and I've
Yes.
done much research on you as well.
Yes.
But yeah, just kind of tell it how it is a little bit and kind of introduce myself to to a new community.
Yes. Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and we're looking to learn more about you. I had the AI take a look at your LinkedIn profile and see could it tell your story. let's let's see what it came up with.
Yeah, let's take a look at it.
for some reason my tech don't want to act right today.
I promise you, I didn't put any bugs in it before we got on. I promise you that.
Yeah, I never had this problem before, but let me see, can I get it up to the stage?
To the explainer. So today we're going to deconstruct a totally different model for building companies in the high-stakes world of AI and robotics.
All right, let's kick things off by painting a picture you probably know all too well. The typical tech startup ethos. This kind of myth that there's only one way to build a successful company.
You know the mantra, right? Move fast and break things. The idea is to just ship code, get that minimum viable product out the door, and don't you dare worry about the polish.
And then, of course, comes the obsession. Scale those users. Get as many signups as you can, as fast as you possibly can. It's all about the numbers, the growth charts going up and to the right.
We're talking about a world that's driven by growth hacks and these clever software abstractions that are, often totally disconnected from the messy real-world consequences. The focus is always on the digital, not the physical.
But here's the thing. That whole approach just completely falls apart when you're building tech that actually interacts with the physical world. In fields like robotics and defense, a failure isn't just some software bug you can patch later. No, it's a critical incident with really serious repercussions.
And that's what brings us to Jermaine Anugwom. He's like a living, breathing counterexample to this whole myth. He's building for a world where you absolutely cannot just figure it out later.
He's the founder behind Talon OS and VentureMind AI, and he's building operational infrastructure for really high-stakes environments like defense and security robotics. So the big question is, what makes his approach so fundamentally different?
Well, you see, his journey didn't start in some coding boot camp or a Stanford dorm room. Nope. It started with concrete, contracts, and the unforgiving logic of physical systems.
Just take a look at this timeline. It shows a career that's just steeped in the real world, right? You see this progression from fitness to due diligence, and then deep into construction and real estate. This is not your typical founder's resume for an AI company. Not at all. But what's so fascinating is that there's a direct, unbroken line between these two worlds. Think about it. The discipline you need to manage budgets, vendors, and safety on a construction site, that's the exact same foundation you need for mission-critical AI. So he ended up developing this deep expertise in managing all these physical world constraints, things like safety, latency, and risk, long before he ever applied them to AI. For him, these aren't just buzzwords on a slide. They are hard-won lessons.
And it's this unique foundation, right? That's what allows him to build two very different but, philosophically connected kinds of AI companies today.
So first up, you've got Talon OS. And let's be clear, this is not just another app. We're talking about critical control infrastructure for high-stakes robotics, where a split-second delay isn't just lag, it could be absolutely catastrophic.
I mean, just look at this tech stack. Everything here, from WebRTC to blockchain-verified logs, it's all built from the ground up for enterprise, government, and defense clients. These are people who need mission-grade, verifiable deployment from day one, no exceptions.
And then there's VentureMind AI. This is where he treats AI not as some kind of gimmick or a chatbot toy, but as a seriously controlled operational tool. These AI agents, they have specific jobs, clear boundaries, and they're designed to work transparently right alongside human teams.
So, what happens when you put all this together? You take this super unique background, you focus on core infrastructure, and what you get is a completely different way of building a company. It's a whole new playbook.
Okay, so what does this high-stakes playbook actually look like in practice? If you're a founder out there building in a space where, failure has real consequences, what's the alternative to all those common startup shortcuts?
Well, this table really says it all, doesn't it? Instead of just shipping a quick MVP demo, the goal is a full-on mission-grade deployment. Instead of that iterate fast mantra, the focus is on validating safely. And maybe most importantly, instead of just scaling users for the sake of numbers, the real goal here is to earn trust.
So, okay, why does this matter? Why is this kind of counter-narrative so important right now for the entire future of AI? What's the bigger takeaway here?
Well, it's because of this. As AI starts to move from our screens and out into our physical world, we're talking our cars, our factories, our security systems, the whole mindset of a founder has to change. It's not just about shipping code anymore. It's about solving these incredibly complex coordination problems between humans and machines.
And this whole approach teaches us some absolutely crucial lessons. First, that solid infrastructure has to come before automation. You got to obsess over the boring stuff first, the data pipelines, the security, the control systems. Second, having a human in the loop, that's not a bug, it's a non-negotiable feature for safety. You have to design for it from the get-go. And finally, in these high-stakes fields, being ready matters way more than hype. You have to earn the right to accelerate through rigorous validation, not by using cheap growth hacks.
And all of this leaves us with a final, really crucial question to think about. As we're all in this race to build the next generation of intelligent systems that are going to shape our world, we really have to stop and ask ourselves, what is the true cost of moving too fast and breaking things when those things can't be put back together?
Really cool. I love that. I love that. I'm impressed. I'm very impressed.
But people, we look at LinkedIn profiles all the time, and I don't remember seeing all that stuff looking through your profile.
I've omitted a couple of things, on my LinkedIn profile, because sometimes I feel like, when you're developing your LinkedIn, it could get jumbled a lot. You know what I mean? If it like too much information, and like kind of like it's like a book as opposed to kind of like the straight to the point type of thing. So, when you look at different people's LinkedIn's, it all depends on what you're really trying to do with your LinkedIn, right? Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. Yeah, and I noticed. I think of and kind of doing some searching, not deep searching. I saw you were, into sports a lot. Fighting, and so I noticed you left that off.
I did. I put my gym in there. I put my gym in there. You know what I mean? But that was another life ago. When I was a professional fighter and kind of traveling the world, and I was a lot younger. And it led me to opening that gym. And kind of passing that along to kind of the young guys now that want to get out there and kind of prove themselves a bit, and earn some money. But I definitely left that out on the LinkedIn.
So what made you decide to get into fighting, the professional fighting?
So I've been, in Houston, when I was in elementary school, I was really into martial arts, right? And so this was during the time of the Chuck Norris era, when he did this program in Texas. I wanted to see if it was nationwide, called Kick Drugs Out of America. And it was the Kick program. And so what he did was, it was martial arts schools throughout all of the urban, elementary schools, middle schools, high schools. So as opposed to PE class, my mom used to sign a permit slip, I could take karate. And that's kind of where my love, I mean, come on, Bruce Lee and Chuck Norris, and I got a chance to meet him and all this other crap. So that was my introduction to that, right? And so it kind of just expanded from there. So I did it throughout elementary, middle school, high school, played football, track and stuff like that. But martial arts really stuck with me. But at the time, there wasn't a way to earn in the martial arts world, right? Unless, because this was way before mixed martial arts was actually like mainstream United States. It was elsewhere and stuff like that, but like mainstream. So when mixed martial arts came onto the scene, it was perfect for me, because I was already teaching at a couple of martial arts studios. When I went off to school to Texas A&M, and I was in College Station. Actually, I was in Brenham first, and at Blinn College, and I was teaching in a martial arts facility there. And then we migrated, went to Texas A&M, and then I started teaching there. And then that's in like 05, 06 is when mixed martial arts really became popular, and UFC and different other organizations and stuff like that. And it just took off for me. I started fighting. So I really got into that whole niche of, mixed martial arts, Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, wrestling, Krav Maga, capoeira, just everything. And so and I was teaching it too, so I was making some money and working for a facility at the time.
Gotcha. So, what did you study in college there?
At A&M?
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So I got my degree in sports management. So it was a
Oh,
major in cleaning
fantastic.
and minor in business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So
Yeah.
now, so what was the impact of all that sports from elementary on up? How did it affect the way you run your businesses now? Did it have any impact on
I'm gonna be cliche with it, right? Like, the respect and discipline, that it teaches you is bar none.
it?
Especially when we were in, especially in College Station, we were doing Krav Maga, which is in like an Israeli self-defense type of thing. But we were doing more so with law enforcement, right? So we would have these law enforcement classes with local PD, FBI unit that was in Bryan, which is right outside of College Station.
Uh-huh.
And we would even do it at the Teeks Academy, for police academy, where they do a lot of cadet training and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
I've always been around that discipline, right? That respect, that type of atmosphere. So that's always bled into any other business that I do, right? Like, you do good business, you find good people to be around, and that where you can conduct good business, and you all can kind of make money together. So
So
yeah.
what about the idea in sports, you always have to be prepared to do the right preparation. Does that flow over into the business stuff as well?
Yeah, listen, if you're not prepared, you're you've already lost, right?
Yeah.
It's more mental to me. When I was fighting, it was more mental than anything. Like,
Yeah.
you could do a full, 12-week camp, 3 a days, 2 a days, whatever. And if you're not mentally prepared for it, and kind of gone over it in your mind, and really kind of face those fears a bit, preparing yourself for the fight, then you've already lost, right? And so, same thing for
Yeah.
business. So it's whatever that you decide that you need to do. I always say, you have the confidence and the knowledge enough to where no one can BS you when it comes to whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah.
No one can throw you a number and you'll easily fall for it, or no one can say something to you and you'd be like, yeah, okay, when it's really not what it is, right? And so the same thing applies to fighting. If it's a Muay Thai match, you got to work on your stand up. If it's a mixed martial arts match, you kind of bring everything together, work on your ground game, your striking, things like that. So you just got to be prepared, and it kind of pushes towards anything else that you do.
Yeah. So you transition out of fighting. What was kind of the next phase of your career?
So I retired in 2013,
Okay.
and my fight manager, a guy named Brett Boyce, he was the guy that got me all my fights, right?
Okay.
And he would, get the contracts for me and negotiate them, and
Mhm.
we had this great partnership. And I always saw him kind of as a mentor, even in the business aspect of fighting,
Mhm.
right? And how you negotiate with promoters and stuff like that.
Okay.
Well, he's part of a family office, and basically what a family office is wealthy individuals that kind of invest their money in different areas of everything from real estate to you know whatever, oil and gas, you name it, right? They have different avenues for things that they invest their money in. So he came from a very well-off family based out of New York in the Hamptons, and he kind of asked me what I was going to do, after I retired. I'm young, early 20s, and I had my gym, so I was making really good money there. I'd opened up my gym, and I said, I'm gonna, get a big house, and get some cars. I'm young, and he's like, no, you're gonna learn real estate. You're gonna invest in real estate. I'm like,
Okay.
man, like whatever. I wasn't even trying to hear it at the time. You know
Okay.
what I mean? And he basically took me under his wing and introduced me to that entire world of investment inside the real estate industry. From residential to multifamily to commercial.
Wow. Okay. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. And what was the next step in your journey? I guess you're still doing real estate stuff now as well, right?
Yeah. So from 2011 till 2017, I worked, for him, for his company.
Okay.
And during that time, even introduced me to the real estate side on how to evaluate a property, and checking out the rent rolls and ROIs, and meeting
Okay.
with different banks and bank inspectors, and
Okay. Okay.
doing draws and pools, and
Okay.
and like you know evaluation sheets and stuff like that, performas, and the whole, I
Okay.
mean, just everything, right? And getting more, I like the construction side a lot more, right? Because
Okay.
you have to know all sides. I like the crews, I like the guys. They're funny,
Yeah.
they're raunchy, they joke all the time, and it really prepares you for outside of just investment, like people relating and procurement and talking to the vendors and them getting to know you. You can always go to them for if you need a deal or something, right there, for
Hmm.
material. So I just kind of learned all those aspects of it up until 2017. In 2017, I branched off and I started my own company.
Okay.
And I still work well with Brad and the Original Group, who
Hmm.
introduced me to their partners in a bigger.
Yeah.
We've done deals together, and
Okay.
it's kind of expanded from there.
Okay. Fantastic. And so it sounds like the the real estate world you were in, you were learning a lot of business acumen. A lot of
Mhm.
it. It seems.
Yeah, they it really taught me the sequences
Okay.
of how everything goes, and from getting your LLC to accounting to taxes
Okay.
to credit, leveraging credit, that whole aspect of business, even if it wasn't in, real estate per se, the foundation of kind of what they gave me was solid, right?
Fan.
Because it's when you're doing something that is capital heavy,
Hmm.
then you have to have that part right, especially when you're borrowing money and going to the banks and using leverage that way. You know what I mean? So, but giving me the basics to kind of be successful in pretty much anything that I do on the business side.
Fantastic. Yeah, that's solid. That's really solid. Yeah, just folks in the audience, if you got any questions, just feel free to put up the chat. That could be about Jermaine, or if you just got some startup questions. Or I know we got a guy that's been in the real estate business in the audience, and Sam. So guess what? He's transitioning into tech, and so I think that's pretty neat.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so what was the kind of next leg of your career?
Yeah. So, I've always been a tech guy, right? Since, even since middle school, with C++ and H++, I've always played around with it.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't know. Yeah, okay.
yeah. But it wasn't until 2014, 2015 is when I really started doing a deep dive into
Okay.
tech, learning how to code, full stack development, from Python, TypeScript, Rust, Solidity, you name it, full stack, right? And the ability back then, right, is when I was still doing, which I still do, but when we were doing assessing properties, I would always think of ways to kind of automate these things, right? So
Okay.
much paperwork.
Yeah.
Imagine walking a 300 unit apartment complex that you're thinking about buying, where you have to walk every single unit, take pictures, upload it to the G drive, analyze the rent rolls, and compare it to your pro forma. Is it a 20% return plus type of, like, all of that stuff was like PDFs typed out, done by hand. Nothing was automated. The pure legacy system of real estate. And I always thought of ways and always thought that we were overpaying for software that could easily be built out and stuff like that. So I would really take my hand at trying to build in-house solutions to kind of just help us, analyze faster and better when it came to real estate. And that's kind of where my tech journey began, is by trying to create solutions in-house for what we were already doing.
Gotcha. Yeah, Carmen is saying your pro sports career. Is that the same
That's
thing?
another part of my life I've left out that Carmen is mentioning.
Okay.
Yeah, so when I retired,
Yeah.
I'll listen, I'll talk about it. When I retired from mixed martial arts or fighting, I'm an adrenaline junkie, right? On
Okay.
For hobby wise. And so I needed something else to kind of give me the jitters that fighting did, because it's surreal, when you're
Yeah.
when you're fighting against someone
Mhm.
else. And so where was I? I think I was in California in God, my wife's gonna kill me if she La Jolla, La Jolla, La Jolla, something like that on the coast. I think outside of San Diego or something like that. And I saw these guys just doing backflips connected to this huge hose about 100 feet. And I pulled over, and I'm like, what the hell is this? And the guy was like, this is flyboarding, and this, that, and the third. And he let me try it out, and I was hooked. And so he's like, hey, there's a spot back in Texas, in Galveston. I know the guy, and maybe he can train you. And I was like, this is a sport? He's like, yeah, it's a sport. And so got back to Texas, went to Galveston. A guy named was Rodney Nelson. I think Extreme Water Sports was the name of the group. And it just took off from there. I was there like 3 times a week. Train, got into the pro series and start traveling the US, and becoming a pro flyboarder. So just that pure adrenaline junkie.
I got a question before you answer. We get on Sam's question here. So, do you see that same kind of adrenaline in your startup world?
Yeah, you know what? I wouldn't count it as the same type of adrenaline, but I'm always, now in the startup world, you have the ability, 10 years ago, you would have an idea, you would think of something, or you see something, and you get excited about it. And then you would look up how much it would take to build out that idea if you didn't know how to code or you weren't in the tech world. And maybe you were hiring some third party on the software side, and then you needed a website or a landing page. If you wanted to develop it into an app, there was a huge timeline. There was a lot of elements at play when it came to that. And so when you saw the cost, and you would probably bootstrap the thing, kind of just let it go, right? And then maybe a couple months or years later, you see someone else with that idea. They actually were successful at it. You're like, oh man, I thought of that, right? And so today is different, right? There's no more excuses on what can and can't be built. And you don't need a team to do it. You could just do it. It could just be you as a solopreneur, as a solo founder. And that's kind of where we start playing into AI and what we're able to do today versus what we were able to do, 5, even 10 years ago.
Gotcha. Yeah. All righty, fantastic. So, what do you start with first when you're building software?
Yeah. So how I think about software and before I even start building is the idea, right? And I always tell myself when I'm building something is, one, what niche is it in? What problem am I solving? Can I build a community around it? Can I build a great product around it? And is this a demand, or is this a passion project that I'm doing, right? And most of the time when it comes from founders, and you, especially if you're bootstrapping, you're building this to either push it out on a subscription service, or you're pushing it out to sell it or flip it or something like that, right? Or even, raise money for it, where you can scale and grow if that's something that you want to be tied to, and make it your baby, and see how far you can really go when it comes to building. So those are the things that before I even, there's one line of code that's written, or I choose whichever language that I'm going to be coding in. These are the things that I always ask myself when before I even start building.
Yeah, that sounds good. So I, I think with all the tools out there now, do you just
Yeah.
experiment with some of the tools just to see what's possible?
Yeah, not really. No, because it's kind of like this.
Uh-huh.
There's certain stacks that I'll play around with, right? And a lot
Okay.
of people like Python and like TypeScript and stuff like that. But to me, it depends on what you're trying to do. That's okay. I'm
Yeah.
more so on the database, the hosting, and the speed of what you're actually pushing out, right? Because when I push out apps and products and stuff like that, I want
Mhm.
them butter smooth. I want them, big studio field,
Okay.
right? Non choppy, very the UX, the UI has to be perfect. The UX and the flow of what the user actually sees
Mhm.
is professional, and it makes sense, and it's not jumbled and things like that. So vibe coding and kind of adding all of these elements together, prompt engineering, things like that is making this just a lot easier, a lot faster. I can push out an app in 2 days, right? Like a
Mhm.
fine-tuned one. If you really
Yeah.
wanted to throw something together, I'm sure you could do it in a couple hours now, but to really fine-tune it, to bring it to that professional level, probably a couple of days, as
Yeah.
opposed to a couple months of what it used to take.
Yeah. So I guess what I was thinking about in the side with AI around here is people have trouble understanding what AI can do or can't do. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of was the basis of my question. Do you kind of leverage any of those tools to kind of
Oh,
figure
100%.
yeah, what AI is capable of doing? But back to that adrenaline thing, before the reason why I asked you that was because when you were demonstrating your your VentureMind software, I could
Yeah.
see you're in your element.
Which one? Which one?
Yeah, yeah. When I could tell, that it seemed like you kind of like was in your flow or whatever you want to call it. You know.
Yeah, yeah. Because you must be talking about the agent that we were listening to.
Oh yeah, when you were showing all the capabilities and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, yeah. Um, I enjoy it. It's fun, right?
Yeah,
Like, uh, because now you're really testing the capabilities of what is really out there, and what you can build and what you can automate. We were just really
yeah.
just having fun, kind of just messing
Oh yeah,
around.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah. No, I get excited about that stuff. I really do.
yeah, yeah. Tony's got a question here. So, do you use a phased approach to developing software? And if so, please describe your methods.
Yeah, yeah. So with a phase approach, and this is something that's super important. A lot of times when people are building vibe coding, whatever you're doing, right?
Mhm.
Um, you basically start off with a prompt, and I kind of think that's mm, you have to tell the AI what you want, right? The LLM or what you want, but let's back up for a second. So you have your idea of what you want to build, and you have, you've done your due diligence. It has demand, and this is the niche that we're going to be in. This is the product I'm going to build, whether it's a web-based app or it's just a regular app. And now, how I approach it is I determine which large language model that I'm actually going to be using, right? As I was showing you, Lloyd, just yesterday or the day before, I'll go to Hugging Face,
Mhm.
and I don't use GPT or anything like that, just because it has too many backend parameters of what can and can't be done, right? And so I'll choose a large language model based on what I'm actually trying to do. Is it text to text and text to video, video to text to speech, speech to text? What are you building? Like, what are you actually building? Or if you're building some infrastructure, are you building automated agents? Are you building a LoRa system, a RAG system? Like what are you really jumping into, right? So picking those tools is that first phase of kind of how you're going to orchestrate things. The second thing is what do you, if you're using that large language model, right? How are you actually going to be doing the building process? Are you using Claude? Are you using Claude Bot, which is now Moltbot? Um, are you using Eleven's Labs? Are you using Codex from GPT? Like, who's actually going to be, writing the actual code? From there, you also have to determine if you're going to be implementing agents as architect and orchestration when it comes to what you're building. Let me explain. So if you're using basic Claude or GPT to write code for you or to do complete tasks for you via the API on the back end, or if you're just using a regular CLI like layout, right? Like you would go into Chat GPT, you would type and it would give you some code, and then you would kind of throw it into maybe a vibe code platform like Replit or Lovable or whatever the case may be. That's one way to do it. The better way to do it is to pick an LLM that you're actually going to be using and then generate agents to actually perform multiple tasks for coding for you. So kind of how that goes is we call it like a 5-layer, 6-layer, 8-layer AI system where you can go inside Claude and you can create something called an architect. And an architect is the overall like hierarchy of the AI agents, right? Every agent reports to the architect. Under the architect, you have orchestrators, right? These orchestrators can be task specific. This orchestrator is for SEO. This orchestrator is for security and audits. This orchestrator is for UI. This orchestrator is for UX. This orchestrator is for debugging. This orchestrator is for endpoints, routes, servers, right? And so you have all of these agents. So now that it's ready, now you can prompt, right? And how you prompt is extremely important because there's over 200-300 ways to prompt. You have vanilla style prompting and direct shot and role-based prompting. So how you're prompting the large language model, once you set up this kind of hierarchy, is going to make it so much easier for you to build that app or that web-based product than it is to just prompt Claude or whatever large language model that you're using, just so it can build code, prompt by prompt, step by step, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yes, and Sam is asking, you sort of got into it a little bit there, your vibe coding.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't vibe code anymore. So, okay. So let me tell you I'm gonna tell you the stack, and then I'll tell you a better way. So, when I got into vibe coding, I like Replit, which is Replit. Replit. To me, they're the and they compete with Lovable and a lot of other ones, right? To me, they're the best when it comes to all-in-one in-house vibe coding. Like you don't have to go anywhere else to do anything. You want to build an app, you go there. You want to build a desktop web app, you go there. It does UI, it does UX, it does hosting. You can run virtual machines up to 8 vCPU and 8 gig or even 20 to 40 gig memory for caching. You can run Redis, Postgres. I think their database is Neon. You can pretty much do anything. You can run any API where you don't have to put it in your variables. You can put it in secrets. So none of your API secret keys or anything are exposed. You can have a shell terminal where you can push it straight to from your GitHub repo directly into the Replit. So if you like working with GitHub and that's where you push your code to, you can actually pull it and sync it with your Replit as well. It's very all-in-one basic if you don't want to think. And they use the architect and archestration agents as well. They use multiple LLMs. They don't really let you choose, but it can get very expensive when it comes to the vibe coding.
Yeah,
so that's the tech stack that for vibe coding for sure.
You can also do mobile apps now with they started off with the iPhone this month.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. Yeah, they upgraded because It all depends on your user base. If you're pushing apps and it's more foreign based than the US, then know that 90% plus people are on their mobile phones. They don't have laptops and iPads and desktops like we do here stateside. It's more mobile based overseas. They do everything from their phone, everything from their phone. So if that's your target of what you're really trying to go for, building an app 100% is going to be the way for you to go. Or starting off with web based and then going into the app. They make it very easy to transition, make it mobile optimization and kind of changing, your gaps and your font levels and stuff like that. Replit makes it very easy to do that.
Yeah. So the Carmen's got a question, but what I thought we would also we have all these founders out there that are non-coders, and
Right.
but some of them are still hiring development teams to do their software. But well, I guess I've been trying to tell people, that's why I asked the question about experimenting with the vibe coding, so you can kind of understand if you're still going to have somebody to develop it. But I also have seen founders that try to hire or don't kind of get people to do stuff for them, but it takes forever for them to do it.
Yeah.
And to me, leveraging the vibe coding, they could have had it done 3, 4, 5 months ago.
So you're preaching to the choir. So here's the thing: is the days of depending on others to build your site, your website, your landing page, your app for you over. And let me tell you why. Because as a founder, you have the idea, you have the vision of what you want. AI and vibe coding, it brings that to life. So you don't have to go overseas and hire someone that's cheap. You know why? Because you're adhered to their time. You don't know what's happening on the back end. You don't know what they have going on. They could be working on 10 to 20 other projects. They could be, pushing your concept on some of the things that they're doing on the side. They have holidays. The time zone differences are massive. You don't, and you're more than likely bootstrapping. You're saving yourself 5 figures minimum by doing this yourself, by paying. It would cost you maybe $20,000 and up for something that you probably can get done for about $200 in vibe coding fees. And it'll be just as good. It'll be just as professional, but you have to really get into, how to prompt the sequences and the stacks that you can use in order to get this done. But it can be done, and it's not, you're not waiting months, and you're not dealing with rogue devs if payment or something doesn't go through, or they decide to upcharge you because they're working on it more so than anything else. You could be paying them 5 figures and they're vibe coding the app, themselves, only doing it for a couple $100. So that era to me is dead. If you're using third party to build anything for you right now, especially at the MVP stage where you're throwing it to the wall to see if it sticks, you're getting live feedback from the community, or you're building in public or something like that, and you're paying all of that money just to get to an MVP stage, you don't know if it's going to work or not. No, you're doing it backwards. I would not suggest that route at all.
Gotcha. Okay, Carmen said she was working with his son last night, teaching him how to do something.
When we got off the phone, we continued the conversation. Okay. And so I introduced him to a couple of agents I built, one from Texas called Big Trill, and another one was a podcaster called Buzz Sawyer. And he was telling Carmen's son, asking him about basketball, what does he like about sports? And then Carmen was in the background giving his son a hard time, and the agent told Carmen to shut up and he'd knock his teeth out if he said it. Like, it was I told Carmen that, based on how I built it, I don't know if anybody here has ever had AI threaten you, but it threatened Carmen many a times for, giving his son a hard time. So he was very shocked and intrigued about that.
Oh yeah. Well, so like, what made you just to get into voice, and the with that VentureMind thing? What happened there? What was the story behind that?
With the voice side of it for like conversational AI.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
so like, well, tell us, because um, VentureMind,
hmm
that's the correct name, right?
Yeah. I'll explain VentureMind a little bit and
Okay.
kind of what we did with
Yeah.
conversational stuff. So in 2000, I started working on VentureMind in 2022.
Okay.
Um, when I started learning how to code and started getting into AI, I had a mentor. His name was Mishba Saeed. He actually owns a company called Menlo Park Labs.
Okay.
One of the, to me, one of the best teachers out there in AI right now. He has a free channel on YouTube. It's Menlo Park Labs, Menlo Park Labs. It's all free. There's no courses. There's no paid courses, nothing like that. All free. Go check it out. Go check out all his videos, and you'll see he's been posting since GPT 2.5 came out, right?
Okay.
Before the masses hit, right? And so um we connected, and he's kind of taught me a lot of what I know as far as AI. But
Okay.
anyways, started working on VentureMind in 2022. It started off as a Web 2 SaaS, and I applied to the YC Combinator, didn't get in, right? And I was laughing with Lloyd about this because I didn't have any traction, right? I had when I launched it, I think I had like 25 paying customers, and I was super happy about that. And I was like, shit, that's traction to me.
Well,
know what I mean?
so let's expand on that a little bit. But see, they want to know what your growth rate is. How is that growing from week to week? And so
Right.
that's what. And so if you can't show that, that's a problem, because
No,
it's all about
absolutely.
those
No,
repeatable sales.
yeah, absolutely. And so, having that traction and I was very excited about it. But that's kind of, and looking back, it's definitely one of those things with YC Combinator. But I wanted to answer this one question with Tony real quick, and then I'll jump back to my thing. He
Okay.
says vibe coding is cool, but a developer is a must if you're building enterprise systems. I don't agree at all. When you're building enterprise systems, I wouldn't vibe coding is good for the MVP level. That I can agree on. But when you're building enterprise, I don't think people understand what is truly, truly, truly out there. When people are vibe coding and they're building their MVP and they're kind of getting used to what an endpoint is and what a route is and what an API is and what a server is and what a schema is and how to lay things out and how to audit your front end and audit your back end and do a smoke screen test and really implement the sequences of how a major company or product management puts out product. What's the QA, right? All of this can be built into multiple orchestration agents that can do it better, do it the same, if not even better than humans. Now, if we're taking it to the enterprise level, you have to migrate all of that off of the vibe coding app. And it has to be now on systems that more so that you can control, right? Like your railway and so on and so forth, to where you can host it, you got your VPS and you can host it and things like that. And so I agree in the sense that you can't bring enterprise level development on a vibe coding platform, but migrating it off now that you're more familiar with it, I still don't think you need these full out developers for it. And that's just my opinion on it.
So I can comment on that as well. So the company Factory .ai, their first market was enterprise. So they got traction in enterprise, got a bunch of funding, and the funding, they used the funding to expand to the non-enterprise market, and believe it or not, they use the same what you described, that orchestration and all that stuff. That's exactly what they do, and that, if I'm building something for enterprise, I tend to go there first. But I also would do the same thing in Replit, just to see how well they do. But the bottom line is, factory AI, it's just for developing your code, not for deploying it. But it knows the hell out of what it's doing. I can tell you that, because
I'll put it to you like this: a lot of people don't extract everything out of what agents can do, because they don't think in the sequences of how a human team would do it, right? Like, I know, and maybe a lot of people can research this before you even start building. What are the positions inside of these upper echelon software companies? QA testers, product managers, front-end developer, back-end developer, database, and so on and so forth. What do they do? What do these guys actually do? What are the sequences that they follow before they put anything out to the public, right? How does it get past phase 1 to phase 2 when you're working at these high level areas, right? For anyone that wants to go out there and build something and has an idea, then if you're thinking about it in that sense, you would literally have to go and work at a company and figure out what those sequences are. You don't, because we've done something this entire time for AI to kind of beat us at anything else that we do, and that's data. These data sets that we have to mimic the highest level of output for product when it comes to software is bar none. It's so insane that most people just aren't implementing it. You can push a Vibe Code app out into production. Did you run an audit? What's an audit? Did you do a QA test of it? Did you do a smoke screen? What's a smoke screen? To me, how I build is I study sequences of what the top level guys are doing, all the way up to cybersecurity, right? What are the standards? What's the standard that of security that it has to pass in order to put out a product? You know what I mean?
They have drawers for every one of those things you mentioned.
Every single one of them. If you're pushing something out for the military, they have standards. If you're pushing something out for certain other niches, they have standards. They, that it has to pass, right? I can data scrape any cybersecurity company and learn all of their orchestrations in a couple of hours. I can use Bright Data to do that. That's pretty much easy. You can go to Kaggle. You can go to Kaggle. They have free data sets. I see someone talk about sports simulation. You can go to Kaggle and pull up data sets from sports books from the 1970s all the way until today, if you're trying to train some models. It's all about sequence. Now, if you're just prompting and just pushing something out and expecting it to go to that and scaling from there, you're going to have a hard day. But if you're following sequences like everyone else does, it's not a magic pill. They're not doing anything special. The data sets are already there.
Yeah, so that's goes back to that same question I was asking before, and I was trying to get people to see, if you don't know what's possible, that's why you use these tools to go experiment to see what's possible. And so one of the tools I tell people to go use, adaptive AI, even if you don't give it any specification or product requirements document, just do a prompt and just to see if it's possible, what it builds, to see if it's actually even possible. Because most people, you're not going to have an idea to build something if you don't know it's possible, or you might dismiss it because you don't think it's possible. But you can easily, in 5 minutes, go do something with the Vibe coding tool to determine if it's possible or not.
Correct. Yeah. And it's not a waste, right? It's really for really good testing. But jumping back into the conversational stuff, right?
Yeah.
What happened with VentureMind is in 2000, and after I got rejected from YC Combinator, I said, okay, no problem. I launched it, got up to like 150 customers for it, and it was Web 2 SaaS. And so always been a Web 3 guy. I love blockchain. I was a front end developer 2016 for Bitcoin Private, which was we took Zsnarks and we migrated it with Bitcoin to make Bitcoin private, like with Zcash. Fast forward 2019, I was part of Juicebox Protocols. So this was like Ethereum, like layer 1 Solidity, DAO governance and stuff like that. So we created ways for people to raise funds via DAOs and voting and digital governance and kind of recording that on the blockchain. So this was all previous to VentureMind. When it came to VentureMind, we joined this accelerator called Seedify. And what Seedify did was kind of got us VC ready. So it was a 14-week course, fully, and speaking with a lot of experts and stuff, kind of like Lloyd and so on and so forth. Not saying Lloyd in particular, but similar, right? And in that world, and revamp the website, revamp the product, add more automation to the AI agents. We built like over 150 agents, and we raised like 4 million for that venture, right? And it was great because I felt finally like I'm like, okay, I got some people who believe in what I'm actually doing. And it was amazing, right? It truly transcended me into the whole,
So
tech world.
I guess that's some adrenaline right there, right?
Yeah, it was surreal. It really I still think about it. It's very surreal. But with 11's Labs, so 11's Labs was having this grant competition where they were coming out with all these new features, and they say, hey, if you're building something with 11's Labs, submit it, for this grant competition. And, if we like it, we'll enter you into it, and then we'll reward people. So we won the grant, we won a grant 2024, got about $50,000 of grant money and 33 million credits on 11's Labs. That's kind of what we were playing with last night. And so it was just, it was hit after hit. So it was amazing. It really was amazing. Right. And so that's kind of where we go with the conversational stuff, because I like the sense of kind of bringing things to life when it comes to agents. Agents can perform complex tasks for you, of course, right? More text-based than anything. They can talk to you. But it's more robotish than anything. So I was always fascinated about the conversational stuff, because now I can clone my voice, I can do inflections, I can go high, I can go low, and the AI can do it as well. If I'm speaking a different language, it's not, rudimentary, like, you're reading it from a textbook, but it's more so dialect and accent, right? From that local language. We submitted with 11's Labs, where 11's Labs has these based languages like Portuguese, Spanish, German, Mandarin, whatever, but they didn't have a lot of African languages or languages, just these not widely spoken languages, right? And I actually taught the agents, I would feed it, these data sets. I taught it Devehi, where you read from right to left, right? And in local phrases. And I did that by feeding it data sets, but also going to YouTube, data scraping a video of someone speaking Devehi in God, where the heck? They're in gosh, I can't think of that island, but they're speaking Devehi and they're locals speaking it. I data scraped it, and then I extracted the video part, and I kept the audio. And then I uploaded the audio to the agent so that it can process it. And so the agents have a rack system, which is more so a brain for the agent, and it ingested it, and it used X amount of tokens to kind of read chunks of the audio. And then now when you spoke to the agent, it spoke like authentic Devehi, to where I have friends that speak Devehi and they're like, wow, right? As opposed to like feeding it just pure data sets.
Yeah, I think. But
that was some cool stuff we messed around with. I never built anything like paid subscription stuff for it. We literally just messing around.
Yeah. So what I've noticed from talking to you is I want to make sure people understand these two things. One, you learn a lot of stuff, but
Yeah.
I don't know if you actually emphasize how you learn it and who you use to learn it, whether you went to YouTube or whether you had a mentor, like you mentioned in one case. And then also, your method of thinking. How do you think about things? Because the average person wouldn't have thought to go to YouTube to get another video in another language and use the audio to train,
Yeah.
another AI how to speak that language.
Yeah. I
You see
think,
what I'm saying?
yeah, I get it. I always think of data, right? And
Yeah.
that's something that AI loves. It's like I'm bringing it old school here, but in RoboCop 2, the nuke, where it fed off of nuke. That's all it worked off of, right? I don't know if you guys or if I'm dating myself here, but
I
it
love
fed off
Robo.
of nuke, right? Nuke is like, and to me, I feel like it's like data sets when it
Yeah.
comes to AI. That's how it learns. And once you feed it enough data, then all you're doing is just fine tuning. That's
Mhm.
all you're doing is literally fine tuning. And when I say fine tuning, I mean adjusting the system prompt that it uses and it feeds off of. It's like this. If you're using Chat GPT, there are certain things that GPT will not talk about no matter what. You can try to trick it, you can try to do whatever you want, but it won't talk about it. The reason being is that GPT has a system prompt, right? It has these back-end parameters. They're like little parentheses inside the code. It will not deviate from it no matter what you do, right? You would literally have to use source code or access to source code from OpenAI to change it. You can never change it. It's proprietary, right? That's why we like working with large language models that don't have any back-end parameters. But you have to be careful. It will say certain things. It can be manipulative. It could be racist. It could be so many things, because now it's like taking the chains off and letting a wild dog loose and he's just looking left and right. And so, but it's better to build on top of that, because you can pretty much build whatever you want without any pushback, especially if you're running it locally on your computer, right?
Mhm.
And so
Yeah. And so where do you go to learn stuff that you're not familiar with yet? What's your approach for learning stuff you're not familiar with yet? Like
so huggingface.co, that's where all the nerds hang out.
Okay.
They even have their own spaces inside of there, but that's where I go, because that's where everyone is talking about what language model they're using. They're putting up preview videos, they're putting up tips. You can test it out for yourself, and so that's kind of where I go when I
Okay.
want to learn more
Yeah.
about different models and everything that's coming out.
And you told me that did you go to a boot camp to learn how to code, or
Mm-mm. No, it literally, I went into hermit mode where I literally was on Mishba's, videos and pages and everything like that, and just kind of, us having one-on-ones and stuff like that. So I wouldn't call it a boot camp, but we did a lot of one-on-one stuff, and he was teaching me tips and tricks of which language models to use, how to prompt. And that was the biggest thing, is prompt engineering for me.
Mhm.
He taught me so many different ways to prompt, like for example, role-based prompting.
Mhm.
If even you could do this with GPT, where before you ask it a question, you give it a role, right? Before you say anything about what you want to do, you give it a role. And for example, say, hey, you're an engineer and you went to MIT. You've been in this certain industry for over 20 years. You are the top, you're the cream of the crop in this industry. You went to this school, this is your knowledge base, and you're an expert at this. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I want you to get into this role. Are you ready? And then the language model responds, yes, I am ready. And so what you did before you even asked it anything is you gave it an identity. So now it will hallucinate less, right? And it will kind of stay on task. To me, open like LLMs are like this here. It's like this book, right? And this book has a lot of pages. You don't need all the pages. Like if you're trying to build a startup, you want some more information about, let's say, your sports simulation. You don't need to look at how to tie a shoe, but I'm sure GPT would tell you how to tie a shoe if you asked it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It has so much data inside of it that you need it to focus. And so that's where the prompt engineering comes into part, because you have to give it a role. We can even talk about LoRa systems, because LoRa systems is the same as this as well. A LoRa system is like fine tuning. It's like you have all these pages, but you only need certain pages of the book. So a LoRa system is like a sticky note. So you open up, oh, I need this one. You put a sticky note there. You go to the next page. Oh, I need it. You put a sticky note there. And so the sticky notes stick out. And so that's all the large language model will do. It won't do anything else except the pages that you put the sticky notes on, because the data, it's like a big phone book. The data sets are just too huge, right? And so hopefully I'm not getting crazy off topic here. I'm I'm excited about the different systems.
Well, and see, just like Alex's questions, there's, advice for raising funds for people who have little experience doing so.
Yeah.
So he's asking that question. So I'll let you.
Yeah. Let's jump into it. So, what is your advice for raising funds for people with little experience in doing so? Okay, so no one, especially if you don't come from that world, no one really knows the kind of sequences when it comes to raising money, or going after a VC or an angel investor or an accelerator, or like a self-funding type, like whatever, right? But I'm assuming you're asking more so about raising through venture capitalists or angel investors.
So let me stop you right there. So how is somebody going to tell you if they don't know what stage you're at?
Yeah,
that's what you just started to say. How's somebody going to answer the question? You see, people have to know where you are in order to answer the question. Because if you, if you're still trying to fine tune your business model, or you don't have an MVP, because there's a different answer depending on where you're at.
Correct. So to keep it simple, right? For his question is, if you have little experience, right? In let's say you do have your MVP and you kind of know where you're at, and you went through the Lloyd grind and boot camp, and you're ready to go, right? But you still have little experience about getting out there and actually, kind of sequencing how you actually find these VCs. And so you have to ask yourself the first question, and because this will save you so much time, is, are you pre-seed or seed or so on and so forth, right? And so when you determine that, say, okay, I'm pre-seed. Pre-seed means that you have an idea, right? But not a fully working product, right? So at the pre-seed level, an investor or angel investor is really investing in you as the founder, right? Because you don't have any traction to show them. You don't have the fully working product out there, right? But you have a pretty good pitch deck and a landing page and so on and so forth. And that, to me, that's pre-seed. Now, how you save yourself is, if you're pre-seed and that's kind of what you're going after, but you're finding VCs that are that only invest in Series A, Series B, Series C, you will feel defeated, because they won't even give you the time of the day, because it's not that they don't like you or anything like that. You're just going after the wrong person. Venture capitalists have obligations to their investors on what they're comfortable with in trying to earn an ROI on, for the long-term game of projects that they invest in. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to find the right VCs that actually invest in pre-seed rounds, right? It's just going to save you a whole bunch of time. And so going back into that, let me give you the sauce. So you can go, I usually use a platform called OpenVC, OpenVC. And this is a platform where it is fully like founder friendly. You can submit your pitch deck and it'll have the AI rate your pitch deck. You can find any VC from anywhere in the world, all throughout the United States, overseas, Europe, XYZ, right? There are also VCs that only invest in Black founders. There are also VCs that invest in, your whatever your sexual identity is, gay, straight, whatever the case may be. There are investors that only invest in projects that are in Texas or in Florida, and so on. So they categorize it as well. There's also investors that only invest in pre-seed, seed, Series A, B, C. There are investors that only invest in defense tech or product-based, right? Like I saw in some of your intro videos. So they categorize all of that stuff. So you don't have to waste your time on going after the wrong person and then kind of feeling defeated when you don't hear a callback or anything like that. And that's kind of what I love about it. It kind of just spreads it across the board, kind of helps guide you on once you're ready and you're ready to go after it. And then it does the warm intros, cold intros, so on and so forth, and kind of get your emails ready, set up CRMs. It's really cool stuff.
I don't see this much now, but when I first got in the startup world and coming out of the research world, the government used these things called technology readiness levels, TRLs. NASA came up with it, and it's from like 1 through 9 or 0 through 9 or whatever. But what the startup world did, they aligned those technical readiness levels with the investor readiness levels.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically was based on your milestones as you got further along your development path. And so folks have to realize what you just gave the answer for the stage you're at now. It tells you which type of investor that you need to be looking at.
Absolutely. And if you, like I said, go to openvc.app, openvc.app, and go check it out. But listen, everyone is going to be at different stages when it comes to what you're building. Like you have your idea, and some people wait until they fully build the MVP product, because now it's just so much easier and faster to build. Pre-seed, you're starting now to see pre-seed and seed get combined together, because there is no longer that huge gap. I have to raise funds and hire this big team just to get to the MVP level. You don't see that anymore. You can go directly to the MVP level just from AI and vibe coding and kind of sequencing it that way, right? So you're really starting to see pre-seed and seed get combined together when you're raising funds.
Yeah, I think, I guess we need to wrap it up, but the bottom line is, so like they got all these tools out there, why not experiment with them? Why not spend $20 for 1 month to experiment with these tools to see what they can and can't do? So like I was messing around with Factory AI. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I didn't care because I know I could ask the question, I got this, what do I need to do next? And it tells me what I need to do next. And then it goes and do it, so it's just like, don't be so afraid, just experiment.
Absolutely. It's not a bad thing, right? Like, listen, there's always been a barrier to entry when it came to tech. And it has. There's always been a barrier to entry from, oh man, I don't know how to code. Man, I don't know how to design a website, and then you have Wix and all these other companies that came out. What I'm telling you is you don't need anyone On the build side, all you need to do is have an idea and know how to talk. That's it. That's how simple it is right now. Now, what your go-to-market strategy is and what your product is going to be and which way you're going to go. Yes, of course. You need insight and coaching and someone that has done it a million times over to assist you in that, because you don't want to get in front of someone and you're like, well, I'm thinking about doing this, but I really can do this. And I'm telling you, I want to do that. And there's like, all right, well, what's your, how much does it take to obtain a customer? And what's this? And they're starting throwing it, and you're like, so you don't want to, it's not that it's bad or wrong. You just don't, you just want to have a great impression, and you want to know your product in and out of whatever you're doing. But save yourself a lot of money, and you don't need any of that stuff anymore. I'm telling you, I'm telling you, it's you have to use these tools.
Yeah. So I did want to mention this. We have our Founders Innovation Summit coming up in April 17th and 18th, and start pushing some of that stuff out. And definitely still want you to check your calendar to see if you're available to come join us here in Pensacola.
I love Pensacola. I was talking to you guys last night and with Carmen. My last time in Pensacola, I had an amazing time. I'm really in love with Pensacola. So yeah,
Okay.
count me in.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
So we definitely appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot to learn, and so I hope everybody, this was never said, but you don't learn stuff in a vacuum. You have to get out and talk to other founders and other people that are out there doing stuff. And I think kind of like, you may be a solo founder in some cases, but in your case, I've heard you say over and over, you got in those where the other founders were and learning and seeing what they were doing, yeah.
There's a time where, listen, if you want to be a solo founder, that's fine, but at least get to if you're at the MVP level and you start to scale and then you raise funds, then you want to hire more people to kind of do more. That's fine. That's completely fine. What I'm saying is there's so many avenues. My way of doing it might be very different. And some ventures that I do have a large team. Some ventures I don't.
But either way, the point is that you don't just rely on your knowledge. You go out and you see what you talk
Absolutely.
to.
I don't take away from anything that I know at all. Nothing.
Yeah.
I promise you. I'm learning, and I keep learning every single day, and I keep my ear to the streets when it comes to, whatever new is coming out or what can make automation even better. You guys see how fast AI is just, and we're not even out of January yet. And then what's come out so far. It's insane. I can imagine us having this conversation in December of 2026. I just can't imagine.
Yeah. Or even in April for that.
Yeah. What's going to happen in a couple months? It's wild. It really is wild.
Okay. Well, I sure appreciate it. And do you have any last minute takeaways or what you want to leave the founders with?
Listen, guys, execution is king, right? Like, you can show anybody your idea, they can show you their idea, and then y'all walk away, and then y'all go sit down at y'all computers and y'all just stare at the computer, right? Like, that's not going to get it done. Execution beats all. I'm telling you, it doesn't have to be perfect. Just execute, right? And throw it out there and see if it sticks. And and I've always loved that model where people will say you have to focus only on one thing. And I think that's an old way of thinking. I believe that you can focus on multiple things now, because now that you have AI at your fingertips, you can throw 20 things on the wall.
Yeah, you got to have a system.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you can expand your team with AI agents and stuff.
Yeah, listen, I can throw 20 things on the wall, and maybe out of those 27 stick. Well, those seven stickers is really good for me. You know what I mean? I really benefiting from that. But thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
I really truly appreciate it. And I truly appreciate Carmen introducing us and you
Yes,
having
I do too.
and your show and talking to your community.
Yes, so thanks a million. All right, well, we'll see you everybody next week. Yeah, just stay tuned and join our Founder Insight program. Just apply.kakuainstitute.org. You can just Google my name, and you got the phone number, email, everything. So but the bottom line is, don't be out there, by yourself. Connect with other founders. Learn the best practices for building a startup, and that's what we're here for. See you all next week. Take care. Yeah.